there are a lot of people that are married to the way we've always done it, and that prohibits change. If you're going to be married to something, be married to the idea that we could always do it a better way.
What's up, my brothers and sisters? Welcome to the Fireground Fitness Podcast, where we talk about all things pertaining to life on and off the fireground. The views and the opinions expressed are those of myself and our guest. Today we sit down with Dr. Joe Pennino, who is a firefighter come up through the ranks, turned fire chief, turned deputy city manager. We talk about coming up in Florida. We have a great discussion about training and how resistant we all are to change and what that's all about. We also talk about an initiative he started his fire department where they adjusted the start and finish time for every shift. Really cool conversation about how that can impact sleep and how it impacts the quality of our life, etc. So I hope you enjoy. Joe Pennino, thank you so much for sitting down with me and being a guest on the Fireground Fitness Podcast. I know that we started talking, you told me that you're working in city management now, and you took your helmet off and hung it on the wall. And I want to talk about that and why you would do such a thing. I know you have a good reason, so I'm going to try not to judge. But I want to talk about kind of your journey to that and how you arrived there and why that was important for you and what you decided to do there and why you decided to do that. So let's start. Who is Joe Pennino?
Oh, wow. Still trying to figure that one out. Let's see. I'll take you back to me being a hooligan in high school and not knowing what I want to do with my life. And just knowing that at the time it wasn't school. So, I think it was early in my senior year, dropped out of high school. I had a great family growing up, still do. My dad's got an incredible work ethic, so he's like, you're not going to just go to school, you're going to do something. So got my GED right away. I was working, doing some automotive repair work in high school. And actually had two cousins, one in Florida and one in South Bend, Indiana, that worked for the fire department. And I always was really into kind of admiring what they did and the service that goes along with that. So
let me ask you a quick question. So I'm curious about this, and I just want to pull this thread for a second. So dropping out of high school, what was it about high school that caused you to be disenfranchised, I guess?
Probably a lot of things. One, I didn't feel like I was really learning anything. I think a lot of the social pressures that come along with high school and the fitting in and all that other stuff just honestly felt like a waste of time to me. I was not engaged in all at high school. Grew up skateboarding and racing dirt bikes and racing cars and all that other stuff. So I had a lot of things that were a lot more fun than going to school.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
Well, the reason I bring that up is I think it's in all of our journeys, it's really fascinating to think about where we get education. And, the school system, as vast as it is in our country, is not always the right thing for everybody.
Yeah.
But we say, guy dropped out of high school, and he's a dropout. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a negative connotation to that, right?
Yeah.
And did that put any pressure on you, or did you feel anything about that? Not at the time, I'm guessing, but
no, not at the time. And again, my dad's a very driven person, much like myself. So it was, you're not going to let grass grow under your feet. Let's keep moving. So
okay.
I would not advocate dropping out of high school, especially now. In high school, you can get like a 2-year degree before you even graduate. So a lot of upside on doing that. I lucked out, and with the motivation of my parents, I was able to get my GED and actually graduate from the fire academy and EMT school before my class graduated.
Right.
But that was just being, my parents saying, you're going to go.
Right.
And the interesting thing is that transition from high school into, at that time, it was like junior college. As soon as I got into EMT school and the fire academy, I ate it up. I was all about it. Super engaged.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think sometimes it's about the subject matter and the context, the environment that can make a big difference. I came out of high school and I ran off and joined the Marine Corps, and it wasn't until later that I'm like, oh, education matters. And I grew up a little bit, right? Like I wasn't ready in high school to be a student.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I had a few more years of maturity that I was like, oh, this is important.
Right.
And then I went on and finally got a master's degree and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I went into was driven. And same thing with you. You have doctorate or PhD?
Yeah. Doctorate in public administration.
Yeah. So like, how many stories get written where a high school dropout goes and gets his doctorate? Like,
to your point, it's like that version of education wasn't right for me, or that version wasn't right for you. But when you find the right version, you're like, this is I'm all about it.
Yeah. So you found a fire, no pun intended, I guess, in going to getting your EMT, and you're like, this is it.
Yeah. And then just voracious. I mean, I was a student of the game in every sense of the word. I went to the fire academy and EMT school, got hired at the local fire department, my hometown, and then jumped right into paramedic school as well.
What neck of the woods did you grow up in?
Dunedin, Florida, which is Pinellas County. It's real close to Clearwater, St. Pete, Tampa area.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, Gulf Coast.
That's beautiful down there.
It is, yeah.
What was your favorite part about living down there?
There's no winters. I mean, but conversely, it's hot and humid too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always joke with people about Arizona. I'm like, listen, man, you don't have to shovel sunshine.
That's right.
It's beautiful
Yeah.
most of the time.
That's right.
Did you ever have any storm issues that you had to deal with coming up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially in the fire service down there, when you're in hurricane season, you're just watching the coast of Africa and what's spinning off. And it stops everything. At some point when you get in that cone of uncertainty, whatever promotional process you were working on, whatever the stuff that you're dealing with comes to a complete stop, and you focus on storm.
So what does that look like to you guys? Like, basically, you just tell everyone at home, like, hey, I'm gone. I'm going to go to work. And you go to basically campaign.
That's right.
So you're at work for days and days and days until you reach your resting point.
That's it. What we would do is we would consolidate 3 shifts into 2 shifts.
Okay.
So like A and B shift. So we would bring everybody in. If it's not your shift, you're basically resting, and then it's just 12 on, 12 off kind of deal until and that goes from. Of course, you have to get the stations staffed before the storm comes, so you ensure that the people are there. We would have our public works departments bring heavy machinery to the bay doors, back up to the bay doors. So if it was a catastrophic event, they could push out. And the fire trucks could follow them out.
Okay.
And you have all the routes that you would run. And several times it was bad enough where after the storm, you're actually doing windshield surveys and you're seeing what the damage is on the city. And then, people don't think about it, but for weeks and weeks afterwards, you're dealing with debris and all that other stuff.
Right. So, boats on top of houses and shit. I've seen it.
Yeah. That's it.
It's a real deal.
Do not miss that at all.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. It's funny though. You come up and you're like, oh, why do we get into this business, right? To serve the community. And that's when the storm hits, like you got to go in and help until that work is done. Yeah. And it's a part of the job that I think we don't really think about too much going into it. And then you get into these environments where it's a true disaster, right? And how do you solve that problem? And little things like, what's up with your drinking water? Like you get these flood situations and your sewers are all screwed up, which contaminates all the water. And it's a lot more complicated than just, let's, mop up some water and, sweep off the driveway with all the debris or cut up a couple of trees and make access. It's a complicated civic issue.
That's what the fire service is good at solving, right? That's the one thing that we do is we'll just sign up for anything. Like we'll handle it. We'll figure it out. And honestly, whether we got hit by the storm or the storm hit another part of Florida, if you were hit, you dealt with it. If you were not hit, you already had staff there and you were putting a task force together to send them wherever the storm did go. Right. And that's just the fire service. You just serve however you can.
So in that neck of the woods, speaking of that, did you guys have kind of a like automatic aid or mutual aid, or how did you guys manage that sort of statewide response to stuff like that? Yeah,
the statewide mutual aid was handled by the state of Florida. You had statewide mutual aid. So it all ran through the EOC at the state of Florida.
Okay.
But it was almost just not questioned that if there was an impact somewhere in the state, departments were sending people.
So you just worry about funding later.
Yep.
Yeah.
You submit to the state for reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Cool. So we jumped all over the place. So you get on the job,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's your trajectory look like?
Yeah, just getting involved in everything I could get involved in. So I went to paramedic school, then whatever I could get involved in. So the extrication team and traveling to do extrication competitions in the Southeast. At one point, I was a SWAT medic, went through SWAT school with the police department, served on the SWAT team for quite a while. Part-time, I worked for a company called Bayflight Air Medical Response in the Tampa Bay area. It's like flying into accident scenes and stuff. Did that for a few years. And then I think, as far as the upward mobility, I would say the normal trajectory. Promoted to company officer, and then to assistant chief of training for the always.
Did you stay in one organization?
Yeah,
okay,
that's right. I started my career in my hometown, Dunedin, which was fairly small. Then transitioned to the city of Largo, where I did 20 years of my career essentially. Yeah, it was busier, 6 stations, about 30,000 calls a year, pretty busy department. Company officer, went in to be the assistant chief of training, really had a passion for training and just, how can we do better? How can we adopt better tactics and strategies? And really got into things like incorporating VES into the department. Got on a kick about we had an 1 3/4 high-rise pack, so converting all that stuff to 2.5 and doing a lot of work and those different things, going to conferences like the Orlando Fire Conference, just really trying to, eat it up as much as I could.
So let me ask you, what do you think? I think when I think about training, I think it's really important that we're like self-assessing, right? And like, what is it that we really need? So how did you, determine what you wanted to do next for your organization, or what things were important for you guys?
It's like you do a SWOT analysis. Like, what are we good at, and where are we exposed? And just if you are all about the craft and you're trying to always continue to learn more, then you learn, I'm definitely not going to get into any kind of debate on 2.5 versus 1 3/4 or fog nozzles or solid, any of that stuff. That's not for this. But you realize, like, man, if we have a fog nozzle on an 1 3/4, like, the standpipes are not designed to be pumped at that high pressure, especially if you have a high rise up on one of the upper floors. Really, they were designed for 2.5 and be able to flow more water at lower PSI. So you just, as you learn those things, you can't look away from it. And it's like, we need to make a change. There's a better way. We're exposed here. So, and then when you do things like that, it's like, well, we're not used to necessarily stretching 2.5. So now we have to figure this out. Like, we have to make sure we're all competent and comfortable in how we do this. So, I think I don't think it's any crazy way to go about it, other than just, as you mentioned, you do that self-assessment, you be honest where you're lacking, and then you put strategy in place to shore that up.
Yeah. So what do you say to the firefighter who's like, hey man, listen, Chief, this is how we've always done it?
Yeah. So obviously that's a bad word, and that when I hear that automatically almost has this visceral response.
Tell me more about that.
Because if that's what you stand on, if that's what you're standing on, then that's a weak argument. If you don't have something to back up, we do it this way because it is the best way to do it, and I can back that up and show you why. Yeah. Then it's almost like, man, you've opened the door for me to come at you now, because if that's what you're standing on, we've always done it this way. That we better know why we're doing something the way we do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I asked you that question because I figured that's where you were going to go with it, because I think about how important, you can't have the conversation about being willing to look at our areas of opportunity, our weaknesses, our where we're lacking, and have that conversation in the same breath say, oh, we're good. Yeah. Right? Now, I think you could arrive there right after you do a careful analysis of what you're doing. You could say, oh, we're actually doing the right thing. Right? This tool is the right tool for the job that we're doing. Good. We fell into it. And we've been doing this way for so long. Great. But I think if you're truly, when you are a curious organization or a curious person or whatever, you have to challenge what you are currently doing. Man, is this still the right thing? We've been doing it this way for however long. Are we in the right place for the right reasons, doing the right thing?
Yeah, that's so true. And what I've used in leadership with people is, if you want to be married to something, as far as how we've always done it or something, like, let's be married to a growth mindset. Yeah. Let's be married to the idea that we can always do it better. And that way you don't ever feel like this reaction of, I don't want to change because I'm so used to doing it this way. Let's just get comfortable with the pursuit of, there's a better way. We just need to find that better way.
Yeah.
Constant pursuit of improvement.
I love that. That's a great. I need to write that down and put it on a sticker or something. That's a sticker that needs to be placed up everywhere. If you are, let me see if I can say that again. What I heard you say is, if you are married to the, hold on, say it one more time.
Yeah. There are a lot of people that are married to the way we've always done it. And that prohibits change. If you're going to be married to something, be married to the idea that we could always do it a better way. There's always a better way to do it. And that's the definition in my mind of that growth mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Be married to curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay.
100%.
I hear you. So stickers out. Stickers coming soon.
Nice.
Oh, I don't make stickers, but I'll find somebody to make stickers. So I think that's great because, man, the one thing that is fun, it's funny to me because we all inherently don't like a lot of change, right? We like to do things that are consistent. We want routine. However, the industry that we're in is constantly changing. Mm-hmm. And so for us to sit here and be like, well, I don't like change. Well, it's what we do, right? The Fireground is evolving. And I'll tell you, I had this opportunity. I was assigned to the Command Training Center in Phoenix. And my boss comes in and he goes, hey, I need you to look into fire dynamics. This is in 2016.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I take the fire dynamics and I start going through it. And I was like, oh, holy crap. LA City, LA County, FDNY have been looking at this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I took my giant foam finger. It says we're number one. And I hit it under the table. I was like, because we were missing a movement.
Yeah.
Like, here's this major evolution in the fire service. Yeah. And it is an evolution of operational context that we were finding ourselves in that was changing. And we weren't changing.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that was when I grew up. I took a big step forward and go, oh, we have to be always looking up and out at what's coming, what's changing, and how does it affect us. For so many reasons,
yeah,
safety and health and wellness and, operational capacity, our ability to rip people from the clutches of death, our primary objective, it's impacted by the operational context.
Yeah.
Right. And it can be impacted by the tools that you bring, et cetera. So are you paying attention to what you're doing, or do you show up every day and just do the same bullshit, the same routine in the firehouse, the same training, the same nonsense, or the same stuff?
Yeah.
Without real purpose behind it.
You can.
I
feel like we're advocating our responsibility to the broader profession and those that come after us.
Yeah.
And plus, Science to the Station, UL, there are people that are spending their lives doing research to better inform us.
Right.
If we're not looking at that, that shouldn't be in vain. Let's take what we can from it and apply it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So clearly we have a similar thought on that. So talk to me a little bit about your evolution. So you become a training battalion chief, assistant chief, of training, and you're taking that step forward, and then you take another big step forward and become a fire chief.
Yeah. So kind of went through the ranks at the city of Largo, and then went through this doctorate program at Valdosta State University. And the reason I bring that up is because in my cohort was the public safety director for the city of Alpharetta, Georgia. So he called me out of the blue one day and said, hey, there's this department called Roswell. It's neighboring city up here, great city. They've got this kind of unusual part-time staffing model. And obviously with, your doctorate program and all this stuff, I think they're looking to transition out of that. It would be a tremendous opportunity if you wanted to do something that most don't get an opportunity to do. So of course that piqued my interest. What's this about? Started making some phone calls. My wife and I traveled up there and kind of stayed up there for a week and really fell in love with the community. Tossed my hat in the ring, and 6 months later, we're moving to Georgia after being in Florida our whole lives.
Whoa, wait, hold on. Georgia? Wait, Roswell. Where's Roswell?
Georgia. Roswell, Georgia. See, you're thinking about the aliens.
Oh, no way. I immediately defaulted to New Mexico.
You shouldn't do that.
I apologize. My sincerest apologies.
No UFOs.
So tell me about Roswell, Georgia, because I know nothing about it.
It's about 45 minutes to 4 hours north of Atlanta, depending on the traffic.
Okay.
Suburb of Atlanta. There's about 5 cities north of Atlanta in Fulton County. Roswell's the biggest. It's 100,000 people roughly. 42 square miles, 7 fire stations.
Nice.
Pretty modern Atlanta suburb, and right along the Chattahoochee River. So that has an interesting dynamic for water rescue and swift water and some things like that.
But that's a big swing or a big change from Florida.
Yeah.
So moving your family, what was some of the things that you guys were like, okay, this makes it worth it for us?
Well, my wife is just a tremendous supporter, and she is along for the ride. She's a pediatric nurse practitioner. She's successful in her own right, but she deals with me going like, hey, I got an idea. And she's usually just like, let's do it.
So she paid the price of admission. She's down.
She's down. Ride or die for sure.
That's great.
Whatever you want to do.
That's cool.
I bring something like that up, and she's already looking for houses. I'm like, whoa. I'm just an idea right now. I think the pre-work that I did, of course, talked to my colleague up there in Alpharetta, talked to the police chief in Roswell, which of course he knew, and then they kind of introduce you to the next person. And so you're starting to do that. Hey, tell me a little bit more about what's this about? What's this about? And people are hedging. They're not going to be fully transparent on necessarily the challenges, but so you're trying to kind of suss that out.
Yeah.
What's the real story?
Yeah.
I think when I got the job offer, I think that for me that was, but let's sit down and let's have lunch and let's have a very candid conversation about what the real challenges are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, okay, I have a couple questions that kind of tie into here, but at what point, I'm going to take you back just a little bit.
Sure.
At what point in your career were you like, I'd like to be a fire chief? Or had you not really entertained it until it became much more real?
No, I think for me, I'm on this path of constant improvement and just where can I make an impact? That's it. I am a lifelong fixer of things. When I see something that can be improved, I want to kind of put my hands on it and see if I can make it better. The way that's worked for me is, in the fire service was an upward trajectory, right? If sure. I can impact a crew, and then as a battalion chief, I can impact a battalion, and as a training chief, I can impact an organization, and then it's always like, well, what's the next thing where I can have a broader impact? So that's kind of how it worked. It was never like, I want to arrive at this position. It's just, what's next? How can I pull more levers and make things better?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, assessing whether or not Roswell was the right place for you. Because I feel like when you start having that conversation, like, where can I make an impact? What does that look like? You can make an impact at home.
That's
in
right.
a lot of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, okay, well, we're going to take a jump and move to another part of the country. And so as you're assessing that, when you're, what were some of the variables for you that were like, okay, this has to be in place for me to make this jump, for me to make this, be the place that I want to start working on a problem?
I think it is for me. I put a lot of faith in what my colleague said as far as the city of Roswell and the police chief as well, and then later the Rec and Parks director, of like getting that feel of what is this environment that I'm going to. I need agency coming into a role to be able to fix things.
Okay.
If we are really looking to take a department to the next level or really make a big change, I'm good with that. I can take full responsibility for that. What I can't do is come into a place where someone is saying, just don't touch anything, and just, we don't want your fingerprints on this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not for me. I can't do it. I can't do it. I know myself better than that.
So I think you just said something really important there. You know yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important part of any decision, frankly. But when you're talking about making a career decision or your family, that decision for and on behalf of or with your family, you have to really have a feel for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think taking on the role of any leadership role, frankly, having a good sense of self is important because you're asking to take on a responsibility to affect an organization, to affect a community, right, of people. If you don't understand what you're trying to accomplish, you don't understand yourself well enough to have a good directive, you're just a rudderless ship. Oh, I just want to rank.
Yeah.
Well, to what end?
Right.
What's the point?
Right.
What are you trying to accomplish? Because I will tell you, in my limited experience, in my time, I realized that the hard work that we have to do, the challenges, the difficulty, the really sometimes shitty decisions or shitty outcomes that we have to face or deal with, you have to have a good true north to be able to deal with that. Otherwise, it's just like, it's just super painful for what, right? Why am I suffering these consequences if I don't have a real reason for being here? So
that is, I don't think it could be said better. I mean, as leaders, there inevitably will be times that you have to make decisions that you will be criticized for, that you, in some cases, can't even defend yourself for, because defending yourself would be casting shade on someone else or bringing up something that can't be made public because it's a personnel issue or whatever the case may be. So if that why's not there to sustain you,
right,
you're not going to be able to continue on. It's just not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
You have to understand your why.
Yeah. It's funny because even, we talk about this at this, like, the executive leadership perspective, but all the way down to the line firefighter, right? Or in any job, frankly, if you don't understand your purpose for being there, it's going to suck. Work is hard.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you better have a primary directive for what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to be miserable. And how many people have you heard in your life? And I'm kind of saying this like to the collective here, like all of us. You think about people in your life who are miserable. And why are they miserable? Because they find themselves doing something that they really don't really want to do. And doesn't fulfill them in any way. And so they're not meeting, like they haven't done I'm assuming, they haven't done the work to figure out what's important to them. And then aligning themselves with that value. And then, asking themselves every day, hey, am I inside my values? Am I operating in my values where I want to be? Because if you're outside your values, you're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel crappy.
That's right.
So, yeah,
because the pay's never going to be worth it. The title's never going to be unless there's something more there. Again, that's aligned with your values, or it's got to be the real reason you're getting out of bed every morning.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so funny you talk about getting out of bed in the morning. It's not enough to say, oh, I want to be physically fit. Why? Right? Because being physically fit is a slippery scale. Let's go, fitness is elusive in a lot of ways, right? So what does that mean? And I started thinking about this a few years back, and I'm like, I want to get to a point in my life when, I have grandkids and I can go out in the backyard and run around with my grandkids.
Yeah.
I want to be a 70-year-old who's mobile. That's right. So for me now, like, my fitness is about getting to that place.
Yep.
And so what do I have to do that? So getting out of bed in the morning is not about, oh, I'm going to go run a 10K. No, it's about, I want to be robust enough to grow old gracefully.
Yeah.
And have fun in old age. So having that vision for what you want to do is so important. I guess, which is why I asked, what point did you know you want to be a fire chief? I think your answer is way better than that. Here I'm a problem solver and I just want to know what the next problem is. I'm going to try to solve that next problem. And wherever I have to be to do that, that's what I'll do. So which takes me right to the next thing. So now you're in city management.
Yeah.
What exactly is your role there?
So my title is the Deputy City Administrator of Planning, Performance, and Innovation. I oversee the Human Resources Department, IT, the Communications Department, special events for the city, and then also work really cross-departmentally. Part of my non-negotiable was I need to be able to work across departments, across the city to fix things. So process, one of the things that kind of the reason I landed in this position was going to the Roswell Fire Department and transitioning it from a part-time staffed organization to full-time. One of the things that we just naturally do fairly well, that's a generalized statement from the fire service, is we measure things, KPIs. First thing it is like, what are your response times? What are your turnout times? What's your fire loss? Like all that stuff. Well, the city of Roswell Fire Department didn't have any of that. So we implemented all of that. And that quickly goes into, here's our monthly reports and here's our annual reports. And we're making operational changes because now we're measuring things and it's telling us that we should be doing things differently. So as I'm presenting that at council meetings, as I'm using that to gain support for this full-time transition and more trucks and different fire stations and all this other stuff, it was a matter of time for us like, hey, we need this in other parts of the city too.
Yes.
So it was like, okay,
Nice.
well, we're in a good place in the fire department. We did a lot of great stuff. I had a phenomenal deputy chief that is now the fire chief there, and felt like I felt comfortable leaving the organization. It was in very good hands where I could make a broader impact.
Nice. So what are some of I guess this leads me right into kind of one of the things we want to talk about, which you guys presented. We're at Science of the Station, I guess. I don't know if anyone needs to know that right now, but so you're presenting on this concept where you guys change the start times of shifts, which seems like a significant but small move,
Right.
but it has some powerful impacts. So what led you to kind of entertain that idea?
So it was about 3 years into my tenure as fire chief. We are now moving towards this full-time transition. And I'm in an orientation class. We already put together a 5-year strategic plan. We've redone our mission, vision, and values. We've got rules of engagement and expectations, and we're off to the races. And I'm at a new hire orientation. We've got this new group, and they say this guy up front says, "Chief, we ever thought about going to a 4896?" And the first thing that goes through my mind is, I'm already trying to pull off this transition and institute policies and just rebuild an organization into a different identity. And then it was almost kind of like the question of, can we get shorts, right? And it was like, come on. And I remember my reaction kind of being maybe a little bit flippant the way I perceive it now, which is like, well, I've looked at that data. There's really nothing to support that there's any benefit to it. And you got to work 48 hours and there's some sleep issues with that. And we moved on to the next question. But I got convicted later in the day and thought, do you know that for sure? So I started doing some research, and Dr. Joel Billings had just published a couple new articles, research studies about the 4896. So of course I jump in there and start digging into it. And what I learned from that was 24, 48, 4896. You can make arguments either way, but what he found in one of the studies that he did was that firefighters are coming to work on whether it's a 4896, their first day, or 2448, already sleep deprived. So and we talk about this in our presentation, the worst sleep firefighters get is the night before they go to work. And you may say, well, like, wow, my sleep's not disrupted. So that's true, but we go to bed at the same time as we do every other night, but we're typically getting up super early to make a 7 or 8 a.m. shift change. So we're coming to work with already less total sleep time than we otherwise would have. So one of the things that he put in his research was some research should be done on pushing back the start time to not interfere or disrupt firefighters' sleep. And I kind of was like, wow, that's novel. Let me call this guy and kind of dig into that a little more. Yeah. And that kind of started the conversation. That was I got asked the question in January of 24. I was talking with him in February of 24. And then we turned on our new shift schedule in July of 2024. So that was a very condensed time frame, but the data made sense. Now,
do you remember the title of his work?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It is a very, and if Joel's listening, a very nerdy title that was definitely not memorable at all. But I've shared that research with so many people because to me it was, again, you and I started this conversation with, if we're going to look at ourselves and say, how are we doing? We got to be willing to improve. And I think I look at something like that Joel's doing, and Joel's really the expert in sleep. I mean, he's been doing that for a long time now and going down that path of studying it. And I feel convicted, like, well, I should use the work that he's doing, these super smart people are doing, and see if we can make a positive impact with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll get that from you and I'll try and put it in the show notes so we can share that with everybody. Yes. Yeah.
So, basically had the conversation with Joel and the command staff and made a decision that I'd be open to doing a 4896, but my stipulation would be we need to push back the start time so we're not artificially disrupting anybody's sleep by saying you just got to get up and get to work because our start time's 7 a.m. So what kind of came from there was 3 town halls for all 3 of our shifts. We went to our training center. I presented all the data and we just talked through some pros and cons. I stood at a whiteboard and let them throw darts and kind of play devil's advocate. And we put everything out. So when one shift would do that, we'd bring the next shift in and say, here's what A shift said. Any other things you can think of that are good or bad about this? What we did in the 3 town hall meetings was I actually did live polling. So I said, here's 5 different start times, one of them being 8 o'clock at night, a noon, a 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Number 1, would you be willing to do a 6-month trial? Our vision for the Roswell Fire Department is to be a innovative, world-class public safety organization. I said, we can't be innovative if we're not willing to try new things. I need you to trust me that if it doesn't work, we'll roll it back. Yeah. And so let's do a 6-month pilot program. Are you willing to sign up for a 6-month pilot? I got 100%, to the credit of the men and women of the Roswell Fire Department, 100% said yes, we're willing to try it. And then for the start time, they picked 10 a.m., which is basically the closest start time to the 8 a.m. start time that they already had, trying not to move too far off of it. But then to give them credit, they actually took it upon themselves to do a traffic study. So they actually all put in their addresses and ran commute times from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. or whatever. And they came back and said, Chief, we actually want it to be at 11 a.m. because the 10 a.m. Traffic is still not good, Atlanta traffic. So we'll save more time commuting if we actually do it to 11 a.m., of course, which of course I was fine with.
Yeah. So today's solutions are tomorrow's problems. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what are some of the consequences, good and bad?
Yeah.
That occurred?
Let's start with the good. If you looked at a 4896 tour on a spreadsheet or a graph, and you measured and you looked at average wake up times and sleep times, as human beings, we have what's called the forbidden zone of sleep, meaning we can't will ourselves to go to sleep earlier if we're not tired. Right. So generally, let's just say the firefighters go to bed at 11 o'clock, whether they're on shift or off shift. And this is what's in our presentation, the actual study that we did. Mm-hmm. And this was replicated with the work that Dr. Billings did in Stillwater, Oklahoma. What changes is the wake up time. If you looked at 4896 with a 7 a.m. wake up time, you would see a sawtooth pattern, because you will see before they go to work in the morning, they get up super early at like 5 a.m. And then the second day they're at work, it might be 7 a.m. where they're getting up for their second 48. Then they get up early again to go home. And then you see 3 days of stabilized wake up times as about 7:30 in the morning, because they're at home.
Right.
So what we wanted to do was say, we want to stabilize that 7:30 across the board. We accomplished that. By implementing the study, what you see is the sleep time stabilized at 11 p.m. going to bed, and then the wake up time at 7:30 in the morning stabilized across the 6 days of the tour, the 4896. Other benefits, firefighters are reporting being more rested, and this is doing surveys. We're also measuring total sleep time. They're getting an average of an hour more sleep the night before going to work than they did before. So definitely appreciate the fact that they're coming to work more rested and ready to go. And then we also included the family in this as well, surveying them. And the results that we saw was that families are reporting that their spouse is more rested, that they are more engaged with the family and family life. They're less irritable. They're more engaged with their kids. They help out more around the house. So a lot of good feedback from the families as well. That being said, I do believe if I gave the option, or the current fire chief gave the option, they'd probably roll back to a 7 a.m. start time because they enjoy coming to work at 11 a.m. They don't like leaving at 11 a.m. They feel like it splits that first day off. Yeah. And it's like they're just waiting to go home.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's the biggest complaint that we get. Commute times have decreased by 60%. A lot of great benefits, measurable benefits, and the results that we're getting ready to get back for our medical physicals are things like, what's it doing to blood pressure? What's it doing to blood sugar, testosterone levels? Like, we're going to get this another dump of data here in the next month or so. Cool. And see if we can contribute. But the overwhelming complaint is at 11 a.m. going home feels like it splits that first day up.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. But what's interesting to me about that is if you're smoked, right, like you can sleep in. If you have if you're up all night, you can sleep in a little bit at the station. And then you actually go in having slept in. Otherwise, you get up at the station at 5:30, start packing your stuff, get ready to go, be relieved by 7. Yeah. And you've had this really early morning, especially if you've been up all night. Right. So that last cycle of sleep is probably really important, especially if you can re-rack at 3:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning, re-rack, get another cycle of sleep. That's hugely beneficial to our health.
That's right.
And not just, I get it chops up your day, but now you feel a lot better. You're going to be more productive. I remember so many times, and this is of course anecdotal, right? But getting my head, pinched off at work, and I go home and I'm an absolute zombie. Yep. I'm useless. And so what good is it that I'm home early anyway?
Or you're re-entering the family dynamic in a place where you are.
No, you're totally prickly.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I see that being the consequence, but they're also like, man, I feel really good. I wish I was home now. Well, but you wouldn't feel good. So there's that catch-22. It's interesting. Well, great data, man. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think, and overall, generally, they would not be willing to trade the 4896 to go back to an 8 a.m. start time. Right. 100% there.
Has that, how did you guys, or did you experience any issues with sort of operational issues, training and stuff like that? Or you just adjust your training schedule around it?
We adjusted. The biggest impact was actually, oddly enough, is PR details. You have,
I don't know what that is.
Public relations. Schools wanted the fire truck to come out. We don't come out before 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, we don't. Yeah. And here's why.
We're napping.
Right. Yeah. I would probably say a different way.
Sure. Of course you would.
But the community's been supportive of that. And once you kind of explain it, they understand it. And it's like, of course, we don't want firefighters to get up super early to do that. So, and of course, if we need to adjust, there's no definites. We'll adjust if we need to adjust. But to go back to what you're saying about knowing the why, if the why is we are trying to improve your health, we are trying to improve your overall work-life balance, we're trying to improve your family dynamic. Yeah. If we can agree that that's why we're doing this, then if that's the why, I can do what I need to do as fire chief to move all that other stuff out of the way. We'll figure it out. Yeah, we figure stuff out every day, all the time. We'll figure it out.
Well, so it's interesting. In my first iteration of my career, I was on a 2448. And I remember hearing about departments who were running 4896s. And I was like, how is that possible? And how can they possibly get anything done? How do they get any training done? Yeah. guys are gone they take one tour off, they're gone for a week and a half, and how am I supposed to communicate with them?
Right.
Well, it's like anything. You find the way to do it, and it's just a slightly different variation. But, our operations are 24/7 operations. So keep the ship running. We're here for the primary mission. When our members come and go, we figure out how to communicate with them. We figure out how to train them. We find the way to do it. And, at the end of the day, you've had the exact same number of hours over the course of a year.
That's right.
So you just reshape it a little bit. So I think it's important to maintain that flexibility. Kind of goes back to kind of the thing we were talking about in the beginning. Like, it's what are the most essential pieces? And when you start talking about health and wellness, our firefighters' ability to maintain a healthy, robust family life and healthy bodies, etc., is what allows them to be able to fulfill the mission. Because if they're sick, dead, or injured, or whatever, or their families are falling apart, they're not going to be effective for the primary mission anyway.
Right.
So how is that helping us be successful? It's not.
Yeah. So. And I think, couching it from, there's this book, I forget the author now, Why We Sleep.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic book, right? Yeah. So you start reading this book and it starts talking about the consequences of sleep deprivation. It's like, well, higher propensity for cancer, obesity, behavioral health, interpersonal dynamic issues, codependencies. And I'm like, firefighters have these things. so hey, heart disease, like, maybe there's something behind this, of maybe this sleep disruption that we suffer for our careers is contributing to these. What if we were able to make an impact on that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What would you be willing to do? Right. And I think that's I was having a conversation with Corey Pern yesterday, and we were talking about that very thing, right? Like, what you choose to do has consequences. And so what choices are you making? Right? If you're choosing to not make any changes in your life, you're choosing to eat garbage or whatever. Yeah. Well, you're choosing the consequence. So you have to be really far thinking, right? Forward thinking, just thinking out into the horizon about what are the consequences of your decisions. Because you can choose the discomfort of discipline, or not, and you're choosing the discomfort of poor health. Right. So which shitty thing do you want?
That's
You're
right.
a little uncomfortable now, right? So I think that's important that we have these more thoughtful consideration for ourselves, right? The choices that we make have consequences. So what are you choosing to do? What consequences are you choosing? And that self-reflection is something that is at the youngest point in our careers, we need to be talking about how we are self-assessing. How do we are we able to identify our own emotional dysregulation and shit like that? All the things that are kind of woo-woo, right, but are important to our overall health, mental wellness, physical health, etc. And paying attention to your body, listening to what your body's telling you, and then responding accordingly. And I think like as we level up in the organization, same thing, listening to the organization and what's really affecting our firefighters. And are we willing to sit here and absorb the consequences of doing nothing, or should we do the hard work and take the pains and shape the argument to really figure out what we're doing here and do something differently? I think that's super important, and I really appreciate you sharing what you guys are doing in Roswell, because that's I've heard some people gesture toward that conversation, and but it gets batted back. No, we don't make that kind of change. That doesn't going to do anything, but it does do something. And sometimes those small things, just changing a start time, seems inconsequential, which I said in the beginning, seems inconsequential, but it has some profound impacts if you're willing to look at the data.
Well, I think we all just generally know. You just made an inference to diet and exercise. Small things done with discipline and regularity has huge impacts. And we're talking about a 30-year career in the fire service. Right. So if I can put a few hours back into your sleep bank over, in a tour over the course of 30 years, that's a huge impact.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you take that and move it across the fire service, and we don't know. We need a little more data to have some definitive answers. But we know Sarah Jenke got a grant, and she's going to be doing these studies a little more broadly as well. To me, I just feel super convicted on if we can make an impact. I just feel like we have the responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
Really. And that's at every rank of the organization, right? As a company officer, you set the culture of your crew, whether you want them to, be banging Monster Energy drinks and playing Xbox at 3:00 in the morning, which I've done, or say like, guys, let's get some sleep, or whether you're a battalion chief or you're in that chief spot where you can actually set policy for the organization.
Right.
And again, if you're doing worthwhile stuff in leadership, you're gonna take it on the chin once in a while, but hard decisions are easier to make if you're doing it for the right reason and they're altruistic. I can look at you in your face and say, I'm doing this for you. I know you don't like it, but I'm doing this for you and for the people that are coming after you and your family.
Yeah. We always talk about the brotherhood and we talk about how much we love one another and all this other stuff. And I think about what does that mean? Right? Oh, we're family and it's a brotherhood. And, to me, that means that if that's true, then our responsibility is to hold one another accountable and to hold the line when it's tough. And, when somebody gets outside the box and they do crazy shit, that's when we have to hold them accountable for what the organizational standard is, for what's right.
Yeah.
Right. And oftentimes when we hold one another accountable, that person you might save somebody's career, or more importantly, you might save someone's life. And taking those hard stands with our loved ones is important. You wouldn't let your son or daughter, step in front of a moving train. So why would you let your brother or sister on the job do the same thing, right? So we have to have courage with one another, and we talk about this brotherhood. Well, let's be family to one another. A giant dysfunctional family.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're gonna take care of each other.
Point.
Man.
Let's stop backstabbing one another and talking about each other behind the back, and let's, if we really do care and love one another, let's be courageous enough to have those frank conversations and go, hey, you're a little out of line, and you can walk away and you can curse me or whatever, but I'm doing this because I care about you.
Yeah,
I'm doing what others probably don't want to do, but because I would want you to do this for me.
Yeah. Well, and so I think it starts on the line, and it's all the way up through executive staff. If we care, then let's do what we say we're doing here. That we actually are going to act in love and take care of one another. So, So what's next for Dr. Joe?
Fixing things.
Nice.
Wherever that leads, whatever challenge, just we're on this earth for a season, and I just feel like, man, let's make the biggest impact we can and make things better for others. Whether we're running on Mrs. Smith and helping her out and helping her in her time of need, or we're making organizational changes, wherever that is, let's just make it better.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your thoughts with me and with us, the one or two listeners out there, and, sharing your time, man, and time and talents. And thank you so much for that.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, that's all we have for today, folks. Thanks so much for listening. If you are enjoying this podcast, get on over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review. That's how we get this into more people's ears. Also, the most important thing is that you can take the lessons you've learned here, you apply them in your life, you find a way to improve what you're doing day in and day out so that you can get on the fire ground, you can get in your life, you can kick ass, take names, and just keep on getting after it.